We're live. Hey, Cloud Talk Show is back. Hi. Hi, everybody. Larry. Hey, Larry,
Yeah,
you have a guest with you. We have a guest with us.
we have a
Oh my
guest with us.
gosh. Surprise.
Hi
Soumya,
guys.
please introduce yourself so we can let everyone know who you are at the very least from your own words before we come up with something.
Yes. First of all, thank you guys for having me. My name is Soumya. I am a global cloud solution architect working for Microsoft, and I'm based out of New York. And I work with partners like Capgemini. That's where Ralph and I met.
Hmm.
And I work across different initiatives with partners. So that's helping them with pre-sales, with build widths, as well as consume with. And I also, in terms of my areas of specialty, I have apps and infra, and I also have sustainability as one of my areas. And I know that's
Ah,
what we're here to talk about. So yeah,
yes,
happy to be
indeed.
here and represent.
Yes, absolutely. Here's the thing: cloud is all about the cloud, right? We actually have an actual cloud architect on here, and guess what? She saw the memo, and she's like in our light blue collar mode, as we're
Yeah.
all in our light blue collar mode, because that's what this show is about. We're the folks that actually are in the weeds with a lot of the cloud stuff over here. And speaking of weeds, and that was the whole point. We kept hinting about sustainability and why
Yeah.
it's something that the cloud actually it's important. I think what we want to understand first, though, is when people think that sustainability, they think that sustainability is a case of, well, I could have like my 100 workstations over here in my basement and do my Bitcoin mining, and instead of paying for heat, I'm gonna, use that for heating. Probably not a good idea because I'm probably using up more energy or more something to kill the environment for actually doing that. Other than make myself Bitcoin money. What do we mean when we say sustainability in the cloud? How do you understand it? How do you explain it to someone when someone says, "Oh, well, I don't use a machine, so am I sustainable?" Or how do we explain it? It's like what's sustainability in the cloud?
Yeah, so when we think about sustainability in general terms, we're talking about the environment, we're talking about the impact on the environment,
Right.
and that is in the form of carbon, so carbon emissions and other gases as well, greenhouse gases that are impacting
Sure.
the environment. We think of it in terms of water, so water waste. We think of it also in terms of waste and as well as land. So it's kind of preserving the ecosystem from all of those different within all of those different scenarios. And within when we think about it in terms of the cloud and sustainability, we're talking about a lot of different scenarios. So we're talking about green IT, so writing code that is efficient, building infrastructure that is efficient and green, so you have a lower carbon footprint. We're talking
Wow.
about yeah. We're also talking about in terms of industries, there may be specific scenarios in different industries. So a lot of the manufacturing industries, as an example, efficiencies, operational efficiencies in terms of, being able to catch errors on the factory floor, to make those machines more efficient, to make the operations more efficient, to make the work for the workers more efficient, to be able to do predictive maintenance. So it's a lot of different components that come into play. And technology obviously has a big role. There's data, there's a lot of different scenarios from an industry perspective. So we're talking about a lot of different things. We're kind of trying not to boil the ocean, but
Wow. Yeah, because
Right,
that's
well, it's
not really a
huge,
sustainable thing to do.
right?
yeah,
But it's such a huge problem. It's not just a
right,
problem. There are a lot of different opportunities that people can dig into individually, and
yeah,
and I love the bowl of the ocean though. I mean, Microsoft has their offshore data centers now where they're using
yeah,
the passive cooling, and
Right.
yes.
and
We saw that. We saw one of those big boxes being dropped in the ocean to stay cold. Is that a
Yeah.
sustainability thing?
Yeah. So we have, there's a lot of projects like that. So the one that I have some familiarity with is a project in Scotland. It's called, well, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say it because this is public, but
oh, no,
Hmm.
there's a lot of these data center project, but just as an example where they have, it's more efficient to cool underwater, so to
Yes.
maintain server temperatures.
That's no
that's
secret.
so they
Yes.
yeah, so they've built data centers underwater for that reason. And so, kind of playing around with other areas that we can make. So just from a cooling perspective, that's a clear example where you can have more cooling efficiencies of the data centers underwater. And then I think there's
Wow.
other aspects that go into it as well. But yeah, that's one example. And then we have a lot of within the Microsoft campuses, we have circular centers where we recycle servers and other components. So there's a lot of green offices and buildings, and as not new campuses get developed, that is, obviously sustainability is part of the design. So we're seeing a lot of that, and we're trying to, live that as well, and not just preach it in terms of technology and what we're trying to do with partners, but kind of live that life as well. And I'm sure you're also familiar with some of the goals that Microsoft has in terms of our sustainability targets. So, again, in terms of carbon, in terms of water, we have targets across the board, and we have reports that we've been sharing that are transparent, that show where we are on the journey. We're not always reaching the targets, but we do, we're trying to be transparent wherever we can.
So that's
Sorry,
interesting.
that's a
So you
very
actually
long-winded
have
answer.
data. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know, but you actually have data. So that's the most interesting part of it, I think, is the fact that you actually have data to tell you if you're going in the right direction, because
Yeah.
it's not as nebulous as like, well, those people didn't travel, so obviously they didn't get in a plane, and maybe their presence on a plane, would that have made a difference? The plane was probably going to take that trip anyway, but how does that person not being on the plane because he was able to do a Teams meeting instead, how does that how do you get a
How do you
calculation
relate
from
that?
that?
Yeah.
How do you come up with that? That sounds like they had to solve that problem first, right? Because otherwise they're going to say, "Hey, how are you doing today? Do I give you a bonus or not?"
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
are you on that part? Is that the part that you find yourself fighting, or
So
has that been settled?
yeah, so that I wouldn't say that's been settled, but that's a very big part. And that goes into so business travel would go into the supply chain part of the question as well. So it's, as things travel, people and goods as they travel across the supply chain, that's a very important part of the emissions data. And that's
Right.
also the more complex part of the data, and harder to track. So when it comes to business travel, just as an example, it wouldn't just be one individual traveling if you're thinking of a large corporation like Microsoft or Capgemini or any of the others. So
Right.
it's on mass that you have. I think we had conferences that have been virtual for the last 2.5 years. So that,
Right.
saved a lot in terms of the carbon footprint, because we're not having so many people travel. So it's kind of those things in mass. And what are the things that we can do where virtual is a good substitute? It's not always a good substitute, but sometimes, where we can be virtual, where we can collaborate on Teams or, um, any other, component, any other application that we can collaborate on. So just those are just
Wow.
some examples, but the overall goal is to reduce the carbon footprint, and that plays into it, the business travel.
And see, the goal, right, is different than the goals that we've had in the past. Okay, so like back in the day, I worked for Federal Express for a small amount of time, and Federal Express solved a problem with efficiencies, but they were solving for the number of touches on a package. And so they brought all of the packages into a central hub and then spread them all back out. That wasn't minimizing their carbon footprint. That was minimizing the amount of time and the amount of touches on these individual packages. And so now what we're doing is we're seeing people change that equation and put different weights on the parts so that we're coming to a new answer, a new best
Well,
practice.
so we're discovering now that there are costs that were not calculated in the past, right? So it was easy to say, hey, this is the cost for you to buy this particular product and to take it home via your transportation. But, well, hold on a second. Did you count the time for the person to go pick up that item and maybe get into the vehicle? Oh, wait a minute. And that person now was taken away from something else that now has a cost. You see what I'm saying? All of these things start building out, right? And the cool thing though in this particular case, and this is why we're saying where the cloud comes in. I want to share my screen over here to show this little example while I'm at it, because it's time to share screen time. Hold on a second. We're going to see double screens showing up over here. All right. So the idea is because that's a lot of data, and as you were saying, Soumya, it's not for the individual that we're looking at. It's for the scale for all these
Yes.
people. For someone like a Capgemini Sageti folks, what we're doing is as we're actually doing our trip reservations, it's actually telling us as we're doing it. By the way, click here to buy back your carbon emissions as you're going through. And that's apparently there's no secret there. That's just one of those features available from the particular product that we're using to do so. And so when Uber comes up, right? Uber, you have a choice of Uber X or Uber Green now, and they, how do we say it? They would like you to use Uber Green, so it's usually the same price. So I click on it, and a Tesla will come instead of say a regular car. Just an example, right? And you actually have the power to do it. It doesn't force you, but it's really cool. And now, because it's data that's going to come up in mass, I like this here. This is Microsoft's Power BI side of things. Again, we always talked about data because we love our data. This is a particular how to say it's a gallery. Anyone can download this. If you have your Power BI, it's really easy to get. Just download it. All of these cool animations and stuff over here, these are all interactive. It comes with some instructions on how to connect to the actual data that's behind this. And so if you want to see how that translates and what it looks like at the big scale, this is just beautiful looking. I just had to show it. Are you doing that all day, Soumya, or you're like looking at dashboards and saying, hey, you over there, you better stop traveling, or you're using too much. Your code sucks because I just saw this graph go up over here. Is that what you do, or are you just basically going out there and just essentially waving the flag and saying follow, let's do this?
Yeah, so I'm not necessarily the one that's looking at all the dashboards and calling people to action based on that. But I am talking to partners, to customers, to kind of understand what they're seeing and what some of the challenges are. So within the data, obviously, data is a big part of the challenge when it comes to this space, right? So
right.
It's because we're getting data from all of these different sources, and a lot of the data is siloed. We have a lot of different systems that we're talking to, and a lot of this historically tracking has been very manual. So utility bills, etc. All of that stuff comes in, and it's spreadsheets, and it's a lot of manual data entry. So those are some of the challenges, and then just kind of standardizing some of again, making sense of the data from this vendor versus another one, putting it all together, and then being able to even having standards around how that data is calculated, so the carbon accounting piece of it, and also how the standards are different depending on where you are. For example, the US, we have the EPA, that's right. The guide. But so there's a lot of challenges in the data and the standardization, and that's where technology, and the cloud is here to help with all of that in terms of scale, in terms of, being able to work with all of these disparate systems.
Wow. So that shows why you have a job for sure. If that's a lot of work.
Right. Oh my gosh. But that's also a place where the cloud wins, right? Over computer data, an individual company's data center, they're not going to have insight into those individual pieces to be able to tell which particular application is using how much energy.
Yeah.
But the cloud, Microsoft and a lot of the others, but Microsoft has been at the forefront of exposing that level of data, exposing, all of those little threads that we can then weave together to come up with our real total cost. And the total cost, not just to us, it's dollars and cents, but the total cost to the world, right, through these environmental issues. So
yeah, exactly.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just not that. It's like here. This is what I always wonder. It's like there was a time when everyone was like, it was like a bit of a lip service when a lot of these folks were doing this. Right now, at least for the company I'm at, it doesn't feel like lip service. It feels like folks are truly committed in following through with this. And when I'm hearing you talk, it sounds like it's just like, remember we went with the apps, we went mobile first with apps and started thinking that. Now it's almost like you're going sustainability first. Yes. It's like before we decide the path we're going to, is it sustainable? And then does it work on my phone?
Yeah.
It's almost like, are you getting resistance to folks doing that? Or because I know Microsoft is promoting it, a lot of other companies are promoting it. Do you find that there's resistance out there, or are you finding that folks are the only resistance is like, well, we can't afford it? What's out there? Is there
Yeah.
resistance? Are you finding people like, oh yeah, let's go, let's get going? What are
Yeah.
you
So I
seeing?
mean, yeah. So I would say it's a mix of both. So
Oh,
yeah. So the resistance is, there's a lack of. Sometimes it's a lack of education on sustainability itself, and from because a lot of this is driven from the C levels, right? So it's set at a corporate level, it's set by the CEOs, it's
right.
set by the executives. So if the alignment is not there on that level, then we're not going to be able to drive the rest of it. But getting past that, so there's the element of the education, getting them on board. But there's a lot of pressure that companies are seeing themselves from stakeholders, from demand from customers. So that pressure is coming and it's growing. So that's definitely helping to build a case. But then we're also seeing a lot of places where it's being adopted. And I'll use Capgemini as an example. So
Sure thing.
I've talked to a lot of your teams globally that are, that are talking to customers or that are building solutions. And a lot of them I just see sustainability somewhere in the PowerPoint, whatever the solution is. So that's, that tells me that, that's so embedded within the design. It's not just an afterthought, but it's embedded as part of the design of the solution. So I'm definitely seeing that a lot as well, where it's it's in the DNA, that it's part of the, not an afterthought, and it's part of the product embedded in there, just like security, just like when we talk about DevOps, that needs to be automation,
Yes.
all of that stuff. So
Oh boy.
it's becoming I'm seeing that more and more that it's being adopted. And again,
Yes.
with at least with CAP, from what I've been seeing, I've been seeing a
Hmm.
lot of that.
Wow.
So
So yeah, well, thank you for that also. But this is true. This is what I was saying. I'm not seeing it as lip service anymore. I'm seeing it actually happen within the organization that I'm in a particular way. But there's usually signs. How do you know that someone's actually be sustainable? I mean, I can put in the PowerPoint that says, well, here's my score. I didn't kill any trees last week. That's obviously not the measure. How would you? What's your indicator that someone is actually being sustainable? What tells you? What's the tell? Right? Because Microsoft, of course, has their metrics, and you guys are keeping track of it. But if a company came to you and says that we're being sustainable, what do they have to show you that proves that?
yeah, so I personally have not worked on that side of things, but I know that partners such as yourself do a lot of that kind of consulting, and it's
Right?
basically evaluating the current processes that are in place and assessing it across the board,
Processes.
and seeing if there's one, if some of if you have data that you can, like, so emission data, do you have sources of data, and what are you doing with it right now? Are you tracking any of that? Are you at least able to collect that? And then it's kind of looking at, if there's a way, are we finding a way to calculate it? Do we have goals as a company? Are there goals around sustainability? Are there goals that are being tracked? So those are just some of the things. And then again, depending on the specific, there's a lot of things you can do on a technology side as well as on a just a person-to-person side as well, that, as a, just again, examples within Microsoft, the way that we build out our campuses now, having sustainability being part of the design, encouraging, as much as we can to have virtual events. Again,
Right.
those are some examples, but again, it has to be something that's company-wide, and then we're kind of looking at what they're doing, what are their goals, and kind of, having that overall evaluation.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean,
Wow.
also when we're
Go ahead.
building out our applications, you mentioned earlier that we need to build our applications in an efficient manner. And one of the things that we're able to do is, platform as a service, so that we're sharing the overhead. That's
Yeah.
another way to look at platform as a service. Really, we're sharing the overhead of running the service itself
Yeah.
with a lot of other people. So we're not having to stand up our own virtual machine and have the operating system running. We can offload that and not pay that cost. So it's not just the code that we're writing, but it's the way that we architect our systems, and using
Right.
more of the cloud services really kind of allows us to minimize our footprint. And
Yeah,
that's something that you have to do at the very beginning. It's not an easy thing to kind of retrofit in.
exactly. And we're seeing that. So there's I don't have the link off the top of my head, but I'll find it. But we
Sure.
have white papers written around that on moving from on-prem to the cloud. The reduction of carbon footprint, but also operational efficiency and all of the other things that go with that. And I know that as part of the even within Capgemini, as part of the assessment, you guys have you have EAPM as your one of your assessment tools, and
Yes.
sustainability is part of that as well, right? So it's looking at it at a very granular level, not just kind of high level, that of course you will, there will be savings if you move from a data center to the cloud. The more you lean towards PaaS, but even beyond that, at a very granular level, based on the services, based on the applications, based on what the infrastructure is, what that exact savings would be in terms of carbon footprint. I'm seeing that a lot within the discussions that you guys are having with your customers as well. So that's great to see
Right.
that you're taking it one step further.
We're not
Right.
the only partner, though. You know that there's
Yes,
others
yes.
that are doing it. See, here's the
Yeah,
thing. It's
yeah.
like I know we're talking at this level. It's like Microsoft, we're big, Capgemini is big, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's all fine. It's not. This is not a. How do we say? It's not a big player play. The whole point of to make this work, really, truly, folks, is the world has to be together. Now, there's a lot more of the little guys, as they say, than the big ones. I mean, the big ones might be taking up a lot of space, and yes, what they do can make a significant and impactful difference. But eventually, it takes everyone else to follow suit and to follow along. So I think maybe the question I want to get to is like, is Microsoft and other companies like yourselves doing something to help? How do we say it? The little guy, who are the folks that are in the smaller shops find their way to sustainability, because sometimes they think, oh, sustainability, that's only for people with money, the people who can afford it, right? It's like, oh, I can pay a carbon footprint because I have a nice credit card. Are you finding that are you able to is Microsoft able to help those folks? Are you guys heading there? Is it a journey getting there, or are you there now? Maybe you're there now. It's like, hey, yeah, we have tools. Here they are.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the goal is for every company. We're not specifically targeting the large ones. The reason I keep
Right.
mentioning Capgemini is because that's my partner that
That's
I
an easy
work with.
example. Yes.
And it's an easy example. And that's,
Of
I
course.
work with you guys predominantly. But no, it is as a goal from Microsoft's side, we do, we want to empower every person, every company. And so it's coming from that mindset. And I can't talk to specific programs around that because
Sure thing.
I'm not familiar with them. But I know from a goal perspective, it is, it is across the board, and the tools that we have, the concepts, and even the journey that Microsoft has had, just as an example, is, it's working, collaborating with other vendors. So even across the supply chain, to get more transparency, we're working with a lot of different vendors that we use. So we're trying to incorporate it everywhere we can, and the partners we collaborate with, and then we want customers, partners, everybody to be on this journey with us, and it's for everybody. It's we're not
Wow.
specifically targeting large customers at all.
Wow.
And from a savings perspective, so you don't have to be a big large company. From again, just using that data center to cloud as an example, right? So from a savings perspective, it's not just a carbon footprint, it's also cost savings perspective. So
True.
it should be something that everyone should be able to look at from a business value perspective, whether you're a little guy or a big guy, it shouldn't matter.
Yes.
That makes sense, doesn't it?
Right. And the same calculators that we have for calculating, our cost in Azure can be used to also calculate some of our carbon costs as well. So, I mean, there are tools out there, and there are metrics that we can apply and do a comparison. And it's like you were saying before, it's now going to become table stakes. It's one of the things that, as as a consultant, when I present to business, if I don't have something in there talking about sustainability, then they're gonna look at me funny. They're gonna ask, well, why don't you? Because all of your competitors are, and the tools that Microsoft is making available to let us calculate those things are really great, and they're helping us kind of level that playing field and come in with a really a data backed approach, right?
Exactly.
It's easy to wave your hands and say, well, this is better, but the data that they are providing and showing, because they're so transparent in their own journey, it's helping us, bring that data to our clients and show them how, these little changes that we're making are not just to save you money on the bottom line, but they're also to help.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
That makes a lot. That makes a lot of sense. So the idea. Just remember again, when we used to go places, if you came in and you didn't cover your security piece, your DevOps pieces,
Right.
essentially the full story, you were not complete. And it wasn't a big partner or a small partner thing. It's the case of, as a professional, here's your minimal checklist, right? However you want to do it, you want to do it in a different color, you want to do it in a different order, you want to do it in a different format. That doesn't matter. That's all the individual pieces that can vary from culture to culture, company to company, area, wherever. But there's still, how do we say it? The table stakes pieces that must be there, right? So sustainability now is one of those. And I'm just like thinking now. It's like when I start seeing solutions on that are out there, you can almost tell, you can almost age them. If the sustainability piece is in there, that must be from 2008, or that must be from 2013, or maybe as recently as 2016. Soumya, is a lot of this stuff new? Or is like all of a sudden, like last year, you got tasked with it, or has this been going on for a while? Maybe we haven't realized that we've been thinking of this for a long time.
Yeah, so I would say it's been around, but I feel like the impetus for change has sort of rung a little bit louder, maybe. So I hear about it more, and I see people reacting to it more. And again, I don't want to use Capgemini as an example again, but
That's all right.
if you think about the goals that your CEO has, and I don't know if I can say this on the podcast, but so even
I
if you
think you
think about
can,
okay,
because
so
they're
even
public, I believe. Go ahead.
okay, yeah. So even if you think about the goals that your CEO has set for Capgemini, there's a $3 billion target for sustainability through 2025, right? So these
Yes.
kinds of we're getting this from the C-levels across companies. I think there's another statistic: about 21% of Fortune 500 companies believe that sustainability having that part of their embedded in their DNA is part of their success, right? So
Wow.
I don't think this was happening as much if you go back look 5 years ago. So
Right.
obviously we've had this we've had people talking about it, but I think in droves it's been growing. The momentum has been growing, and that's what we're seeing more now than before.
Wow. So that's a very important thing. So yes, usually as part of now, and the reason why I say it's public is because as part of, for example, public announcements of like, hey, here's how our company's doing, those quarterlies, and say, yeah, our stock is doing great, and by the way, we're good for the planet. That's what I'm seeing a lot more of lately. You said, I think, what was the number you said? 21% of Fortune 500.
Yes,
It
so
it
20.
if
Yeah.
That seems like it feels like a low number right now, and only because probably I'm wishful thinking that wishes that was at 50 or more. But seriously though, 20, if you think about it though, that's about critical mass to say, I can see you. That's like when you're looking at like a pile of things, and 20% of a pile is something that's visible,
Right.
right? So now I see what you're saying. So you say 21%, it might sound like, shouldn't that be higher? But hey, do you see it? Yes. Well, then it's coming at you. It's like
Yeah.
like when you see the train far enough away before it runs you over, that's probably pretty good. Then you know to do something. But rather than all of a sudden it's on top of you, big like that.
Well, I
So
mean, it's a differentiator, right?
it
It's something
is.
that people are actually, because people are hearing about it, people are starting to look for it, and because they're looking for it, it now becomes a differentiator in the market. And it's not just, you know, I don't work for Capgemini, but I'll tell you that they're leading the way, and that's one of the reasons that they are getting the accolades that they are, is because they are leading the way. And so
We're
that's,
we're, we're
you
doing
know,
that. We're
that's
doing
those
our
things.
best with that. Oh, so here's the thing now that essentially, and we're talking about that, the fact that we're all doing it, this means that there's probably jobs that are now specific. One of the things, of course, we're big enough so we'll have people like there'll be a sustainability people at various areas, even in the projects of the large enterprise scale projects that we're going in. There's folks that's their focus, to look at that aspect, because it's so big. You need a separate person to do it. The regular architect, yes, we're regular architects. Part of our skill is to include that in our repertoire of things to
Yes.
look at. However, because we're looking at like an architect of a giant building, if we're like working on a skyscraper, you can't watch every aspect of the building being built or every aspect of the building being done. There's going to be the specialists across the board, the electrical systems, the plumbing, the dealing with all the other pieces. Are you seeing now more jobs, or is Microsoft having a lot of jobs that are specifically or almost targeted just for sustainability going on? Are you seeing
Yeah.
those?
I'm definitely seeing that. So if you go to the career site and you do a search on sustainability, you will see a
Oh,
lot of openings. Uh,
There you
is it
go.
advertising?
No, no, that's
Careers,
that's them
Microsoft
putting
careers. Hold on, let
their
me go look
money
for that.
kind of where their mouth is, right? I mean,
yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
that's
that's just a clear indication that you can see, right? So there's a lot of, and there's a lot of teams internally that I can see that are kind of built around this. And, it's a lot of, because if you think from a skill set perspective, this is one of those where you need a lot of different, there's the sustainability skill, there's the technical skills, there's the putting it all together. And when we talk to teams, within with our partner ecosystem and the customers, it involves a lot of different kinds of people. We got to bring a lot of different kinds of people into the room. It's also industry people. It's solution specialists. So it's bringing all of those people together. And so we are building teams around that. Just like we're building teams around industry, there's the need for sustainability, which goes across industries, right? So there's a need
Ah,
to have that kind of niche skill set, that what does sustainability mean in this industry, versus another one, and kind of pulling it all together. And that's usually not one person. So
so
the
basically,
background. Yeah,
it's
the
not
background.
called out specifically. Well, I
it's
see quantum
yes,
computing.
yes,
Oh,
it's not called out specifically in the way in the career side, but we have a lot of new roles that have come up, and within the way the organization is structured, where we have a lot of different groups that now have a sustainability, like a specific person that's dedicated to sustainability. You might not,
you're,
because it's a little granular, so you might
Right,
not
right,
see
you're
it
the
right.
on the
quantum
website,
computer.
but
Yeah.
certainly if you search for jobs,
Well, look at this.
you'll see many
I went to
other.
the top. I had to go to the
Yeah,
top over here. So I was looking
yeah,
at a specific like quantum stuff. But take a look at
yeah,
this. See this?
yeah,
And sustainability solution and sustainability.
exactly. Yeah.
And wait, hold on a second. So these look like nice work to get nice work if you can get it. Look at this one. I'm picking one out of random over here as a regional business leader, available in 2 locations. You'll have to follow through to click, and it was just posted. You can apply now. No, not me. I think Microsoft likes me where I'm at right now. Here's the travel, and look at that. But here's the thing: sustainability strategy right
Yes.
off
Right.
the bat. This it's that is ingrained. That is actually very impressive. That's there to see. And I'm sure other companies are doing the same thing. Where Microsoft happens to be our guest today, only because we just happen to have a Microsoft guest. If I'm sure if we had from our other friends, we'll talk about that one as well. In fact, we'll probably follow this one up, because just like we talk again about security, DevOps, and all this stuff, and we have different folks, this will come back. But you
Yeah.
are the first to actually be with us when we finally said sustainability. We see you. You're the first one to actually be here to talk. So thank you so much for that.
Awesome. I feel honored. Thank you.
So it's wonderful. And then we didn't have to talk about any secrets either. So that was good.
Yeah.
As in potential products. Um, I just, other than of course like the BI help, because a lot of those, and by the way, when we saw that one in the BI side of things, that's the case where like where how do I say, the community comes together in those sites, those sharing examples. The community in other industries, they're actually giving that out and helping others to do it. That's the ecosystem that Microsoft has, that's based on essentially what was the open source stuff. That's where
Right.
Satya's money really paid off big time. When he went down that direction, we're still lauding that. And it's like, hey, guess what? We're with you guys. Really? What? Google and Microsoft working together? What? Amazon working together with them? What?
The
And
whole
sometimes
sharing
we
and
like,
sharing.
we always
Yeah.
question is like these strange people working with each other, and they seem not to be, going on anybody like in the past. And
Yeah.
that was actually turned out for the cloud for folks like ourselves. That turned out to be the game changer. So things like technologies like back just not so long ago, Cloud Foundry and all the rest, where suddenly you could look at things in a holistic manner and not get into the fight of which one is better or worse or whatever. It's the case of like, hey, what do we need to make this work? Sustainability is the case. It's like, forget who the people or the individuals are doing the things. Remember your goal. The goal here, if you want to save the planet, then you better stop fighting each other because that's where we got to go.
Yeah. Agreed.
I'll get off the soapbox now.
It's okay. Soapboxes are great reuse, right? Renew, reuse,
Yes,
recycle. So you're
Yes.
you've been reusing
you're
them since they were actual products back in.
I like how you brought that back to sustainability.
There you go.
Yes,
Gotta keep going here.
got to keep it
Three
going. We're
R's, yeah.
reusing everything. Everything we do here, by the way, we can reuse, and we've been reusing. For example, we've been reusing my music since it was created. How many years now?
Yeah.
We're getting old.
We
Um,
use the same jokes. I mean,
yes,
we're
you
that
know,
way.
You
yes.
guys are very sustainable, I can tell.
Ultimate sustainability. I think the dadsjokes.com is probably the ultimate in sustainability, going back in forever. So things like that. I'm just trying to think over here. Any parting thoughts over here as we come closer to our? We must return to our lairs, and because it's Friday, we don't want to keep you much further beyond this time. Is there maybe anything we should be looking forward to? Any kind of toys that are out there? It could be something Microsoft has or something that's, I don't know, an app. You should put this app on your phone because it'll help you keep track of your carbon footprint or something. I mean, right now, for example, in my Uber app, I go out of my way to click on UberX. So no, UberX/green, I should say,
Yeah.
to select the green choice. Okay. But is there anything like that maybe are you using anything that says, hey, I have a personal, I have a little robot, that nobody knows about that tells me about if I'm sustainable. You got anything like that? Any toys you can tell us about?
Well, I was gonna say, have you guys are you guys familiar with maybe the audience familiar with the Sustainability Manager? That's the latest product that we released June
Oh,
1st.
no. I forgot
Okay.
about that. Hold on a
Oh.
second. Let's look at that.
Okay, so
Shoot.
that's the you mind I could send you a link.
Yes.
But yeah, so we have the so as part of our Cloud for Sustainability, which we see as an ecosystem of products where we're going to have partners and customers collaborate, we have the Sustainability Manager released as the first app, and it's a Power Platform app. So you'll be happy to hear that, Ralph.
Hey, you're in my neighborhood. Hey, thank you.
Yes,
Oh,
exactly.
look at this. Ooh, download PDF. Da, da, da. I'm calling it up. And of course, it's all text because we're nerdy nerds, and all we need is just written.
And you can get a trial. I'll drop a link again because I can't see the other screen, but I'll drop a link in the chat afterwards.
Sure, of course.
Where you can get the 30-day trial and kind of play around with it. So that's our app Sustainability Manager, and it's focused on carbon, and we're going to have water and waste coming in the future. And from a carbon perspective, again, it's across the 3 R's framework of record, report, and reduce. So we have a way to ingest data, and that's using all the different Power Platform connectors. And you can bring custom connectors that you build. And then we've got the calculations that you can do based on your emissions data, and then it can be standardized, again, depending on the geo that you're in, using the EPA library or whatever other library. And then there's a lot of insights and reporting that you can do, again, and that's looking at the emissions for, a company by organization, by facility, however you want to slice and dice, and then getting insights into, what your emission data looks like across the different scopes, and trying to find out what is maybe some of the insights around what are some of the things that are causing the emissions to increase, decrease. So
Wow.
lots of different insights and reporting along that. And I will post a link to the trial. It's a 30-day
My
trial.
only recommendation over here is we need more pictures, because we're seeing all the words right now. Right now, I'm chewing up all the
Yes.
words, and of course, in my head, I create all the pictures. Well, we need pictures. We need
Yes,
like the
and
screenshots.
yes, and I can I have decks that I can share that would have more
Oh,
pictures, but the docs tend to be a lot nerdier. But yeah, we could use some maybe some architecture diagrams and at least a description of the technology stack.
right.
That would help. But yeah, it's based on the Power Platform. So the application is built on Power Platform, and then you can bring in connectors from different places. And it's built on this common data model. So again,
Yes.
a sustainability common data model. So the idea again is to be able to have different systems, have a common way from a data perspective to be able to understand
Oh, wow.
each other. So
And it will let you measure then where you can best put your efforts in order to see the largest impact. It's not necessarily telling you that you're bad or you're good. It's just showing you. It's able to show you where you can, best put your limited resources in order to make the largest amount of change.
Well,
Awesome.
it's judgment-free metrics. It's here you are. Here's where you're at. It's what it is. You decide whether or not you are evil or good at that point.
Exactly. And so
Yes.
it lets you look at what your data looks like currently, and it also allows you to create goals. So it lets you create these scorecards with goals, so you can measure, what your current emissions look like in a specific area that you want to measure, and what your goals are, and you kind of track those goals. You can have owners, so you can do a lot of more granular things with that.
Very
Oh,
cool.
geez. Oh, man. I'm sorry, but it's almost like the case of, again, why not try it at least to see what it is, get that measure. Now, and I always tell people, it's like, even if you don't follow through with doing it that way, you know what? It's still a good goal. If you don't want to do it that way, or you can't necessarily, you don't want to pay for that one, you want to do it yourself or do it a different way, you have a model or a baseline to say, this is what the good looks like. I always say, with like, sometimes if you look at something else, that's out there that you see as successful. It's one of those kind of things where, like, you're trying to measure, well, how do I know if I succeeded? Well, what does success look like to you? I can't describe it. Well, if I show you some pictures, you can pick from the pictures which one looks closest. Okay, that one. All right, let's use that. Whatever that is, that's what success looks like. And if that success says, hey, can I just get that? Okay, yes, it costs this. All right, I'm done. Fine, go that direction. Otherwise, that's what success looks like. Whatever you do, you're going to come close to it. Unless of course it's music or something. Please don't copy the music. You know what? Just that sort of thing. You'll be fine. But look at all this.
Well,
Wow.
and
What a prize we stumbled onto here.
Yeah, this is one of those situations, honestly, where it's like the Microsoft security tools, where
Right.
you mentioned building your own, and I sort of cringe a little bit because Microsoft is really good at this, and they put a lot of people and a lot of money into it. So this is personally, it's one of those situations where you would want to buy versus build. I don't want to set up my own Exchange server and run, my own email. No, I mean, I'm bringing it back home here, right? Because
I know
that's the way we used to do it. But now you just use Office 365 and you let someone else handle that, and it is a small charge, but if you actually look at the whole year and look at the overall cost, it's a lot less expensive.
It's the business value. You compare it. You compare it against, if I had to do it myself or do it this particular way, what does that cost if I'm doing it manually, right? And then at the end of the year, it's like, well, I automate. I paid the bouncer fee to get into the club for this. Well, you got in the club, you had a great time, didn't you? Now, if you had to set up your own club and buy your own bouncer and all that stuff, that probably would have cost you a lot more. And then maybe the dancing wouldn't have been as good.
And that duplication of effort, right? The duplication of effort, that when everyone is doing it themselves, then we're duplicating all of this effort, and that leads to that waste that we're talking about, that we're trying to get rid of.
The waste that we're actually trying to get rid of, we're going the opposite direction. So it's almost like sustainability begets sustainability. It's like a self-perpetuating loop.
Sustainability will lower your costs, right?
Yes.
If you're
Yes,
good at
sustainability sustains itself.
it.
We need a shirt quickly. Hold on. I'm going to GoDaddy quickly. Stand
All
by.
right.
I'll get there. I'll look at that later.
You should be on our
All right.
marketing team is all I have to say.
I've been told that, but like I said, I think you guys like me where I'm at. It's okay. You are allowed to take my data and go every so often. I shall be the reaper of the benefits of this come out. Like something like this, for example.
Yeah.
I would have been honored to have been part of, say, the team that put that together. But truly, I feel better as the consumer on the other end to say, "What? This is all ready for me." I mean, I just click the button and go. I'm sorry, maybe because I'm a lazy guy. I'm like, I'd
No,
rather be there, right?
yeah, and you can still be part of the team that builds the solutions for the customers, right? So again, this is all
That
of
I get to do.
your toolbox with Power Platform. So we
Now,
want
the
you
fact
to
that
be
this is
part
part
of
of Power
this. Yeah.
Platform, I can get part of
Yeah.
it. Absolutely. So,
Oh, we can make us look really smart. Oh, wait, I love this. We can look like we know what we're doing if we use this tool.
Right.
How about
Exactly.
that?
There you go.
That's
There
even
you go.
better.
I look smart doing
I feel
I
like
mean,
you guys
Actually,
both
I'm
have.
going to give one suggestion here. Now
Yeah.
that you said this is Power Platform, you know where I'm going to go? I'm going to go to the good old Power Cat team and say, "Hey, COE kit, you could use that sustainability piece."
I agree. Yes.
We just came up with that today. No secrets here because that's in the public. This is it clearly because you're showing it to us now.
Yes.
Well, I
It is
I
public.
found it. You didn't show it to me. I found this. So now we know. You know this is really public. You know that she didn't give me secret super secret, double probation information. I found it online, just like everyone else right now can find this. And by the way, I do recommend, especially if you're in any organization, just go ahead, follow through with it and follow through with this. Let us know what you think. When you guys try it out, guys and gals out there, try it out. Please give us feedback. Send us what you know. It's like, hey, I tried this. It's hard to use or whatever. That kind of feedback is great for us to talk about. More importantly, don't forget, you can always give feedback to Microsoft. Just go click yes or no, what you like. Don't forget to use the tools and tell them, because guess what? They will actually follow it up.
They do.
Exactly.
They do.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think
wow, we got a lot done today.
Yeah, I think we're near the end. Let's get us closed out and
Okay.
Thank you very much for coming to visit, and maybe we'll schedule something for next year and see how things are. Just kind of
that's right.
Opinion.
Yeah,
we'll do a metric. We'll be in the nice clean. It'll be clean and green spaces. The background, Andy, our background is going to be like trees instead of like big buildings like that right now. Or like mine. So we should.
And maybe next time we'll have, once you've gone back to your Power Platform group, maybe you'll have something to share. So I look forward to that. And thank you so much for having me.
That's true. We will.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much
for taking the time. Yeah, it's been wonderful. We've been so great. And by the way, so folks, just watch the links on the chat. So if you want to follow the folks that are over here, and of course you can just replay this and rewind it and look to see what we did. You can always do that. Otherwise, Soumya, I look forward to working with you again in our next endeavors with the other projects.
I do as well. Thank you so much for having me. Nice to meet you, Larry and Ralph.
Yes.
And we'll connect again soon. Thank you.
All right. Bye, folks.
And thank you, Raquel.
Yes, Raquel holding the show. Raquel's got some ideas now going. Okay, Raquel, you can bumper us out.
Okay.
We are. Credit.